University of Washington, Seattle, 1966. Bruce Lee sits in the back of Philosophy 301, auditing a lecture on Western metaphysics, when Professor William Hartman, PhD from Harvard, 25 years teaching experience, author of 3 books on Western philosophy, stops mid-lecture, looks directly at Bruce, and says loud enough for all 80 students to hear, "Eastern philosophy is mystical nonsense with no practical application. It's poetry pretending to be wisdom." Every student turns to look at Bruce, some embarrassed for him, some curious how he'll respond. Professor Hartman expects silence, expects Bruce to accept the authority of academic credentials, expects this young Chinese student to know his place. What Bruce does in the next 8 seconds doesn't just challenge the professor's statement, it dismantles the foundation of Western philosophical superiority that Hartman has built his entire career on. And by the end of the semester, Hartman completely restructures his curriculum to include Eastern philosophy. This is the story of how 8 seconds of applied wisdom defeated 25 years of theoretical knowledge. But to understand why those 8 seconds mattered, we need to understand who Professor William Hartman was. University of Washington, Seattle. Fall semester, 1966. The philosophy department is housed in Savery Hall, a large brick building on the main campus. 3rd floor, long corridors with tall windows, offices lined with books, the smell of coffee, old paper and chalk dust. Professor William Hartman is 52 years old, been teaching at UW for 25 years, got his bachelor's from Princeton, master's from Yale, PhD from Harvard. His dissertation was on Kantian ethics, published at 28 years old, received academic awards, launched his career. Since then, Hartman has published 3 books: Foundations of Western Logic, The Cartesian Framework, Analytical Philosophy in Modern Context, all well-reviewed in academic journals, all used as textbooks in universities across the country. Hartman is respected, tenured, influential, serves on academic committees, advises PhD students. His opinion carries weight in the department. He's also convinced of something, that Western philosophy is superior to all other philosophical traditions. Not just different, superior, more rigorous, more logical, more useful, built on reason rather than mysticism, on analysis rather than intuition, on proof rather than faith. In Hartman's view, Eastern philosophy, Chinese, Indian, Japanese, is interesting as cultural artifact, poetic, beautiful even, but not real philosophy, not serious intellectual work, just spiritual meditation dressed up as wisdom. He's never actually studied Eastern philosophy deeply, never read the Tao Te Ching in Chinese, never explored the Upanishads beyond English summaries, never engaged with Buddhist logic or Confucian ethics as serious philosophical systems. But he doesn't think he needs to, because in his mind, the evidence is clear. The West dominates in science, technology, democracy, progress, and that dominance comes from superior philosophical foundations, from Socrates and Aristotle, from Descartes and Kant, from the rigorous analytical tradition that separates real knowledge from mystical speculation. Hartman teaches Philosophy 301, Introduction to Metaphysics, required course for philosophy majors, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, 2 to 3:30 p.m. Room 264, large lecture hall. Capacity for 100 students, usually about 80 attend. The course covers Western metaphysical traditions, pre-Socratics, Plato's forms, Aristotle's substance, medieval scholasticism, Descartes' dualism, Kant's categories, Hegel's dialectics, the whole canonical Western tradition. No Eastern philosophy. Hartman doesn't believe it belongs in a serious metaphysics course. Fall 1966, 3rd week of semester, Tuesday afternoon. Bruce Lee walks into Philosophy 301. He's 26 years old, married to Linda, living in Seattle, running his Junfan Gung Fu Institute on Broadway, teaching martial arts to a small group of dedicated students, paying bills, building reputation. But Bruce isn't satisfied just teaching martial arts. He wants to understand it at a deeper level, wants to develop a philosophical framework, wants to bridge the gap between Eastern martial traditions and Western analytical thought. So he's auditing courses at University of Washington, sitting in lectures, taking notes, not for credit, just for learning. Philosophy 301 is one of those courses. Bruce walks in, finds a seat in the back row. He's not trying to be invisible, but he's also not trying to draw attention. Just here to learn. He's dressed simply, button-down shirt, dark slacks, carries a notebook and pen, looks like any other student except he's older than most, and he's the only Asian person in the room. Professor Hartman stands at the front, behind a wooden podium, chalkboard behind him covered in diagrams about Cartesian dualism, mind versus body, thought versus extension. the fundamental separation that defines much of Western philosophy. Hartman is in the middle of his lecture, speaking with the confidence of someone who's given this talk 100 times. Descartes established the foundation of modern philosophy with a simple but profound insight: the mind and body are separate substances. Thinking substance, res cogitans, and physical substance, res extensa. This distinction allows us to approach knowledge scientifically, rationally, without the confusion of mystical thinking that plagued earlier traditions. He writes on the board, mind-body. This separation is crucial. It means we can study the mind through pure reason, through logic, through mathematics, without being distracted by physical sensations or emotions, pure thought, pure analysis. This is what makes Western philosophy superior to... He pauses, notices Bruce in the back row, taking notes. Hartman has seen Bruce in class before, knows he's auditing, knows he runs a martial arts school, finds it vaguely amusing that someone who teaches kung fu is sitting in a philosophy lecture. Today, Hartman decides to make a point. "Mr. Lee," Hartman says, voice carrying through the lecture hall. "You're familiar with Eastern philosophy, I assume?" Bruce looks up. "Wasn't expecting to be called on." "Yes, sir, somewhat." "And you practice, what do you call it? Martial arts philosophy?" "I teach martial arts. But yes, there's philosophical foundation to the practice." Hartman smiles. Not a friendly smile, a teaching smile, the kind a professor uses when setting up a point. "Tell me, what philosophical tradition do you draw from?" "Primarily Taoist and Buddhist concepts, but also Confucian ideas about discipline and respect." "Ah yes, Taoism, Buddhism, Confucianism." Hartman says the words like they're quaint. "These are interesting cultural traditions, beautiful poetry. But would you say they constitute actual philosophy, in the rigorous sense we're discussing here?" The room goes quiet. Students sense something happening, a challenge forming. Bruce considers his response carefully. "I believe they address fundamental questions about existence, knowledge and ethics, which seems to be the definition of philosophy. But do they address these questions rigorously?" Hartman presses. "With logical analysis? With testable propositions? Or do they rely on mysticism? On intuition? On metaphorical language that sounds profound but means very little?" Bruce stays calm. "They use different methods, but arrive at insights that are practically applicable." "Practically applicable," Hartman repeats. He turns to the class. "This is the problem with Eastern thought. It confuses practical utility with philosophical rigor. Being useful isn't the same as being philosophically sound. A hammer is useful, but we don't call carpentry philosophy." Some students laugh, nervous laughter. Hartman continues gaining momentum. "Eastern philosophy is mystical nonsense with no practical application. It's poetry pretending to be wisdom, beautiful sentences that feel meaningful but can't be analyzed, can't be verified, can't be integrated into a coherent logical system." He's said it now, publicly, directly, not as academic criticism, but as dismissal. Every student turns to look at Bruce, waiting, watching. Bruce doesn't look angry, doesn't look offended, just looks thoughtful. Then he raises his hand. Hartman nods. "Yes, Mr. Lee? Professor, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." Bruce stands up, not aggressively, just politely standing to be heard clearly. "You mentioned that Eastern philosophy lacks practical application, but earlier you were teaching about Cartesian dualism, the separation of mind and body. Can I ask, do you believe in this separation? Do you experience your mind as separate from your body?" Hartman looks puzzled by the question. "Well, philosophically, yes. The mind is fundamentally different from physical matter. But experientially," Bruce presses, "in your actual lived experience, do you feel your thoughts happening separate from your body?" "That's not relevant. We're discussing logical categories, not subjective feelings." "But isn't that the problem?" Bruce asks. "Western philosophy creates these logical categories: mind separate from body, thought separate from action, theory separate from practice. But those separations don't actually exist in reality. They only exist in thought, in theory." Hartman's smile fades. "Mr. Lee, we're discussing serious philosophical framework, not... May I demonstrate something?" Bruce interrupts politely. "It will only take a moment, and I believe it addresses your point about Eastern philosophy lacking practical application." Hartman hesitates. This isn't how his lectures usually go, but he's curious and confident. He's a Harvard PhD. This is a martial arts instructor. Whatever point Bruce tries to make, Hartman can counter it academically. "Very well, come to the front." Bruce walks down the aisle, every student watching. He reaches the front of the lecture hall, stands next to Hartman. "Professor, you teach that mind and body are separate. That thought precedes action, that we think, then we do. Is that correct?" That's a simplification, but essentially, yes, conscious thought directs physical movement. Okay, would you do me a favor? Catch this pen. Bruce holds up his pen. Hartman looks confused. Catch your pen? Yes, I'm going to drop it. Try to catch it before it hits the ground. This is ridiculous. Please, humor me. It relates to your point about Eastern philosophy. Hartman sighs. Fine. Bruce holds the pen at chest height. Hartman positions his hand underneath, ready. Here's what I want you to notice, Bruce says. As you catch this pen, pay attention to the sequence. Do you think first, then move? Or does your hand move before you consciously think about it? Obviously, I think first. Conscious intention precedes action. We'll see. Bruce drops the pen. Hartman's hand moves, catches it, reflexively, instantly. Bruce smiles. Did you think first? Hartman opens his mouth to say yes, then stops. Because he didn't, his hand moved before his conscious mind registered the pen falling. It was reflex, automatic, body responding without conscious thought directing it. That's just reflex, Hartman says. Not relevant to philosophical discussion, but that's exactly my point, Bruce says. Your philosophy says mind precedes body, thought precedes action. But your actual experience shows they're unified. Your hand moved before you thought about moving it. Your body and mind functioned as one integrated system. He turns to address the class now, not just Hartman. Eastern philosophy, Taoism specifically, doesn't separate mind and body, doesn't separate thought and action. It recognizes that these are unified. That true understanding isn't just intellectual, it's experiential. It's lived in the body, not just analyzed in the mind. Hartman tries to regain control. Mr. Lee, one simple reflex doesn't invalidate centuries of Western philosophical. Would you like another demonstration? Bruce asks. This one more complex. Mr. Lee, I don't think... Professor, you said Eastern philosophy has no practical application, that it's mystical nonsense. I'm showing you a practical application right now. The integration of mind and body that Western philosophy separates. The room is completely silent. 80 students holding their breath. Hartman's face is red. His authority is being challenged. In his own classroom, by someone without credentials, by someone who shouldn't even be enrolled in this course. But he's also curious and trapped. If he refuses the demonstration, he looks like he's running from the challenge. If he accepts, he might be proven wrong in front of his students. He chooses pride over caution. Fine, demonstrate. Bruce nods. When I move, try to touch my shoulder before I move away. Use all your speed. Don't hold back. This is absurd. I'm not going to... Please, Professor. If Eastern philosophy is really just mystical nonsense, then you should easily be able to touch my shoulder. It's just physical action. No mystery to it. Hartman's jaw clenches. Fine. Bruce stands relaxed. Hands at his sides. Completely open. Vulnerable. Hartman raises his hand. Prepares to reach for Bruce's shoulder. Then he moves. Fast as he can, reaching. Bruce isn't there. He moves so quickly, so subtly, that Hartman's hand passes through empty air. Bruce is now 6 inches to the side. Hartman didn't see him move. Didn't see the shift. Bruce was just somewhere else. Hartman tries again. Same result. Bruce moves the instant Hartman commits. Not before, not after. Exactly as Hartman moves. 3rd attempt, 4th, 5th. Every time, Bruce is gone before Hartman touches him. Moving with minimal effort. Minimal motion. Just slight shifts. Tiny adjustments. But perfectly timed. Perfectly efficient. After the 5th attempt, Hartman stops, breathing hard, frustrated, embarrassed. The students are mesmerized. Some have their phones out. Wait, no, 1966. No phones. Some are leaning forward in their seats, watching something they've never seen before. Bruce returns to his original position. Calm, not even breathing hard. What you just experienced, Professor, is what Eastern philosophy calls Wu Wei. Effortless action, acting without conscious thought. Your Western framework says I should think, then move. But if I think first, I'm too slow. You touch me, so instead I don't think. I just respond. Mind and body unified. No separation, no hesitation. This is the practical application of Eastern philosophy. Hartman is speechless, literally has no response. His face shows confusion, frustration, and, underneath it all, the beginning of real intellectual curiosity. Bruce continues, addressing the whole class now. Western philosophy is brilliant at analysis, at breaking things down, at understanding parts, but sometimes it breaks things down so much that it loses the wholeness. Eastern philosophy keeps the wholeness, understands that some knowledge can't be separated into parts. It has to be experienced as unity. He looks back at Hartman. Your books are valuable, Professor. Your knowledge is real, but it's incomplete. Not wrong, just incomplete. Adding Eastern perspectives doesn't diminish Western philosophy. It enhances it, makes it more complete, more applicable to actual lived experience. The bell rings. Class is over. Students don't move. Don't pack up. Don't leave. Just sit there, processing what they just witnessed. Hartman stands at the front, silent, his worldview shaking. Finally, he speaks. "Mr. Lee, would you be willing to meet with me during office hours? I'd like to discuss this further." Bruce nods. "Of course, Professor. I'd be honored." The next 3 months changed everything. Bruce met with Hartman weekly, sometimes in his office, sometimes at Bruce's school. They discussed Taoism, Buddhism, Confucianism. Hartman actually reading the texts now, not just summaries, actually engaging with them as serious philosophy. Bruce showed Hartman how martial arts isn't just physical training, it's applied philosophy, ethics in action, metaphysics you can feel, epistemology you can experience. Hartman began to see what he'd missed, that his analytical framework was powerful but limited, that Eastern approaches offered something his tradition lacked: integration, wholeness, the dissolution of false dichotomies. By the end of the semester, Hartman restructured philosophy. 301 added readings from the Tao Te Ching, from Buddhist logic texts, from Confucian ethics, began teaching comparative philosophy. East and West in dialogue, not one superior to the other, both necessary. His colleagues were shocked. Some criticized him, said he was diluting academic rigor, pandering to multiculturalism, abandoning Western tradition. But Hartman didn't care, because for the first time in 25 years, he felt like he was teaching actual wisdom, not just analyzing concepts, actually helping students understand how to live, how to think, how to integrate knowledge with experience. 5 years later, 1971, Professor Hartman publishes a new book, The Synthesis, Integrating Eastern and Western Philosophical Traditions. It becomes his most influential work, used in universities across the country, translated into 6 languages, cited thousands of times, changes how comparative philosophy is taught in American academia. The dedication page reads, "To Bruce Lee, who taught me in 8 seconds what 25 years of study had not, that true wisdom is demonstrated, not merely discussed." That same year, Bruce Lee is filming The Big Boss in Hong Kong, becoming an international star, his philosophy spreading through movies, interviews, writings. But he never forgets that day in philosophy, 301, that moment when he proved to a room full of students and one skeptical professor that Eastern wisdom isn't mystical nonsense. It's practical truth. Truth you can touch. Truth you can move. Truth you can live. Professor Hartman taught until his retirement in 1988. Every year, in every class, he told the story of the day Bruce Lee came to the front of the lecture hall and demonstrated the unity of mind and body. And every year, he ended with the same lesson. Don't confuse academic credentials with actual wisdom. Don't confuse theoretical knowledge with lived understanding. And never, never dismiss a tradition just because it uses different methods than you're familiar with. Because sometimes the deepest truths can't be written in books. They can only be demonstrated, and they take only 8 seconds. So here's the question for you. What knowledge are you analyzing instead of experiencing? What truths are you reading about instead of living? What wisdom are you discussing instead of demonstrating? Because Bruce Lee understood something that took a Harvard, PhD 25 years to learn. Philosophy isn't just about thinking clearly. It's about living completely. Mind and body, theory and practice, thought and action. All unified, all integrated, all real. That's the lesson of 8 seconds. That's what Eastern philosophy offers. That's what Bruce Lee demonstrated. Not mystical nonsense, just truth that works. And truth that works is the only truth that matters.